Welcome to the podcast of learning English through stories. If you've been wondering how to learn English quickly, let's start with the very first step, setting a solid foundation. Ben, what does this mean exactly?
Great question, Anna. When I talk about a strong foundation, I'm talking about the essential building blocks of language. Things like basic vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. You need to get comfortable with these before you start building on more complex skills.
Right. So let's start with vocabulary. Learning vocabulary quickly is essential if you want to understand and communicate in English. But it's not just about memorizing long lists of words. The goal is to learn words that will actually help you in real-life situations.
Exactly. One of my favorite techniques is the 1,000 most common words method. Focus on the most frequently used words in English. These will allow you to understand about 80% of everyday conversations. Once you know those, you can start picking up more specialized vocabulary related to your personal interests or professional field.
I love that. It's all about being strategic. Now, Ben, how do you recommend studying this vocabulary? Flashcards, apps, or something else?
I'm a huge fan of spaced repetition. It's a learning method that involves reviewing words at increasing intervals. This helps to move the words from your short-term memory into long-term memory. Apps like Anki or Quizlet are great for this. You can even add your own words and pictures to make it more personalized.
Great tip. And as you build your vocabulary, don't forget about grammar. I know grammar can be intimidating, but understanding basic sentence structures and rules really helps when you want to express yourself clearly. Ben, any thoughts on how to learn grammar effectively?
Sure. When it comes to grammar, I always recommend learning in context. Don't just memorize grammar rules. Try to see how they're used in actual sentences. For example, if you're learning about past tense verbs, don't just learn that went is the past tense of go. Actually practice using it in different sentences like, I went to the store yesterday, or I went to the party last weekend.
I love that. So you're saying don't just focus on the theory. Apply it to real situations, even from the beginning. And that brings us to pronunciation, which is a big part of being understood in English. Many learners feel frustrated with pronunciation, especially because English spelling doesn't always match how words sound.
That's absolutely right. But here's the secret. Focus on the sounds that matter most. Start with the vowels and the common consonants, especially ones that don't exist in your first language. For example, the th sound in words like think or this. It can be tricky for many learners, but once you get it, you'll sound much more natural.
Great point. One tool I suggest for improving pronunciation is using speech recognition apps. Tools like Elsa Speak or even Google Translate's voice feature can help you practice your pronunciation and give you immediate feedback.
Absolutely. And here's one more thing. Remember that listening to native speakers is key. Watch English language movies, listen to podcasts, or try language exchanges. The more you hear how English is spoken, the better your pronunciation will get.
To sum up this segment, building a strong foundation in English means focusing on the core skills: vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. But it's not just about memorization. You want to learn in context and practice as much as possible. This will help you move from beginner to intermediate more quickly.
Exactly. And once you've got your foundation down, we'll talk about how to immerse yourself in English in the next segment. But for now, focus on those basics. Trust me, you'll be amazed at how quickly it all comes together.
We talked about building a solid foundation in English by focusing on vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Now that you've got that foundation, it's time to move to the next crucial step: immersion. Ben, what do we mean by immersion when it comes to learning English?
Great question, Anna. Immersion is all about surrounding yourself with English as much as possible, making it a part of your everyday life. The idea is that the more you hear, read, and use English, the quicker you'll start thinking in the language, which is a huge boost to fluency.
Exactly. It's not just about studying grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary anymore. It's about experiencing the language in real, everyday contexts. So, Ben, what are some easy ways that learners can immerse themselves in English, even if they don't live in an English-speaking country?
Great question, Anna. The first thing I always recommend is listening to English content. Podcasts, audiobooks, movies, and TV shows are all fantastic ways to immerse yourself. Choose content that interests you, whether it's comedy, drama, or even educational shows. The goal is to listen actively. Don't just let it play in the background. Really focus on what they're saying.
I completely agree. I personally love listening to podcasts because they offer so many different accents and speaking styles, and you can pick up on phrases and slang. And don't just focus on formal English. Casual conversations, slang, and idioms will help you sound more natural.
Another way to immerse yourself is through reading. Start with books that match your level. For beginners, try children's books or books with simple language. Gradually, you can challenge yourself with more complex texts like newspapers, blogs, or novels. The more you read, the more vocabulary you'll pick up.
Yes, and if you're worried about not understanding everything, that's okay. Don't feel the need to look up every word. Try to understand the meaning from context. As your vocabulary grows, you'll need to look up fewer words. Just keep going.
And let's not forget about speaking. This is a huge part of immersion. But I know a lot of learners feel shy or afraid of making mistakes. The key here is practice, practice, practice. Find a language exchange partner, join online conversation groups, or even practice speaking in front of a mirror.
I love that. You have to embrace making mistakes. That's how you learn and grow. And if you can't find someone to speak with right away, start speaking to yourself. For example, narrate your day or describe what's happening around you in English. It's a great way to practice thinking in English.
Absolutely. And if you're really serious about immersion, consider changing the settings on your phone, social media accounts, or apps to English. This forces you to interact with English every day and even introduces you to new vocabulary in a low-pressure setting.
That's a brilliant tip. Little changes like that can make a big difference. Plus, when you start surrounding yourself with English, you're not just learning words and phrases, you're learning how native speakers think, which helps you use English more naturally.
Right. And don't forget about writing. Try keeping a daily journal or writing short posts on social media in English. It's a simple way to practice sentence structure, vocabulary, and spelling. Plus, you'll get feedback if you share your writing with others, whether it's a teacher or a friend.
So, to wrap this up, the key to immersion is to surround yourself with English as much as possible. The more you hear it, read it, speak it, and write it, the faster you'll improve. And remember, don't just passively consume content. Engage with it, and try to actively use the language in real-life contexts.
And as you immerse yourself, it's important to stay consistent. Even if you don't have hours to dedicate, small interactions with English every day will add up quickly. Keep listening, reading, and speaking as much as you can.
And with that, we're wrapping up segment 2. In our next segment, we'll be talking about building confidence and overcoming common obstacles that often get in the way of language learning. Stay tuned.
Yes, this is a big one, Anna. A lot of people struggle with confidence when learning a new language, especially with speaking. The fear of making mistakes, mispronouncing words, or not being understood can really hold learners back. But here's the thing. Making mistakes is part of the process. It's actually a sign that you're learning.
Exactly. I think one of the biggest challenges for learners is the fear of being judged or looking silly when speaking. But in reality, most people appreciate when someone tries to speak their language, even if it's not perfect. The goal is to communicate, not to speak flawlessly.
I totally agree. One way to overcome this fear is by practicing in a safe, supportive environment. If you have a language partner, it's important that they are encouraging and understanding. That way, you can feel free to make mistakes and ask questions without fear of being criticized.
Definitely. It's all about finding a space where you can practice without judgment. And speaking of practice, one of my favorite tips is to start by talking about topics you already know. You don't have to speak about complex or unfamiliar subjects at first. Start with things you're passionate about or things you encounter every day, like your hobbies, your daily routine, or your family. This helps you feel more comfortable because you're using vocabulary you're already familiar with.
Exactly, Anna. And remember, confidence comes from consistency. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. One thing that really helped me was setting small goals, like talking to someone in English for 5 minutes a day. It's manageable, and it gradually builds your confidence over time.
That's a great point. Small wins can lead to big progress. Another thing that helps is to celebrate your mistakes. Instead of feeling embarrassed, see them as opportunities to learn. For example, if you mispronounce a word, it's a chance to learn the correct pronunciation and make sure you get it right next time.
And a great way to deal with the fear of making mistakes is by practicing self-compassion. Language learning is tough. It takes time, and it's okay to struggle along the way. When you make a mistake, instead of thinking, I can't do this, think, I'm one step closer to getting it right next time.
Absolutely. Also, if you're feeling anxious about speaking, try to visualize success. Imagine yourself confidently speaking in English, understanding everything around you, and connecting with others. Visualization is a powerful tool that can help you calm your nerves and reinforce the idea that it's possible.
And remember that confidence also comes from exposure. The more you interact with English, whether it's listening to podcasts, reading books, or watching videos, the more comfortable you'll get with the language. You'll begin to see how natural English sounds, and it will feel less intimidating.
One more important thing, don't compare yourself to others. Everyone has a different learning pace, and just because someone else is speaking fluently doesn't mean you're behind. Focus on your own progress and celebrate every improvement, no matter how small it may seem.
That's a really important point. Everyone's journey is unique. Some days will be easier than others, and that's okay. The key is to stay motivated and keep practicing. You've got this.
So, in summary, building confidence is about embracing mistakes, setting achievable goals, and surrounding yourself with supportive people. And most importantly, remember that it's okay to feel uncertain at first. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
And now that you've got some tips for boosting your confidence, in the next segment, we're going to talk about staying motivated and making language learning a habit. Trust me, once you get that momentum going, things will really start to click.
That's so true, and motivation isn't just about being excited in the beginning. It's about maintaining that enthusiasm throughout the learning process. One tip I always give is to set clear, achievable goals. Whether it's learning a set number of new words each week, being able to hold a conversation for 5 minutes, or finishing a book in English, having specific goals helps you stay focused and gives you something to celebrate.
Motivation is key because language learning is a long-term journey. You're not going to be fluent overnight, and it can be easy to get discouraged when progress feels slow. But if you stay motivated, you'll keep pushing forward, even on those tough days when it feels like you're not making much progress.
Exactly. Another trick to keep your motivation up is to make your learning fun. If you're doing something you enjoy, it's easier to stay engaged. For example, instead of forcing yourself to read dry textbooks, why not watch a movie or show in English that you love? Or listen to podcasts about topics that excite you? Making the process enjoyable turns learning into something you look forward to rather than something you feel you have to do.
I love that idea. It's important to break big goals into smaller, manageable tasks. That way, you're always working towards something concrete and can feel the satisfaction of accomplishment along the way. For example, if your goal is fluency, break it down into smaller steps like learn 10 new words a day, practice listening for 30 minutes, or speak with a language partner once a week.
I agree. It's so rewarding to see how far you've come. And speaking of tracking progress, something I love doing is keeping a language learning journal every day or week. I write down what I've learned, any challenges I've faced, and moments where I felt proud of my progress. It helps me stay grounded and motivated.
That's such an important point. Motivation is often linked to enjoyment, and when you're having fun, it doesn't feel like hard work. Another thing that helps with staying motivated is tracking your progress. It's easy to feel stuck, but when you look back at how much you've improved over time, whether it's in how much you can understand, how much vocabulary you've learned, or how confident you feel speaking, you'll realize that every bit of effort counts.
And it's important to remind yourself of your why. Why did you start learning English in the first place? Was it to travel, get a job, connect with people, or maybe just for personal growth? Whenever your motivation dips, reconnecting with your original reason can reignite your passion.
That's such a great idea. It's like a personal record of all the little wins along the way. Another tip to keep your motivation high is to celebrate milestones, no matter how small. For example, if you finally understand a movie without subtitles or successfully hold a 10-minute conversation in English, take a moment to celebrate that achievement. These small victories are what keep you moving forward.
That's a great point, Ben. Having a support system can really help you stay consistent. And if you ever feel like you're in a slump, mix things up sometimes. Doing the same thing over and over can lead to burnout. Try new methods, explore different resources, or change your environment. This keeps things fresh and exciting.
So true, Anna. If you can keep that why in mind, it will help push you through those difficult moments when you feel like giving up. Another great tip is to surround yourself with supportive people. Find a community of language learners, whether it's online groups, local meetups, or language exchange partners. Having others who are on the same journey can keep you motivated and remind you that you're not alone.
Exactly. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep the momentum going, and remember, it's okay to have ups and downs along the way. The more you commit to your learning, the more natural it will become.
Exactly. And lastly, be patient with yourself. Language learning takes time, and it's important to acknowledge that progress doesn't always come in big leaps. Some days will feel like a struggle, and that's okay. The key is to keep showing up and doing something in English every day, no matter how small.
We hope these tips will help you stay motivated and keep pushing forward with your English learning journey. Remember, consistency is key, and you're capable of reaching your goals. Thank you so much for joining us today on Speak Up. We hope you feel inspired to continue your learning, and we can't wait to see your progress.
So, in summary, to stay motivated, set achievable goals, make your learning fun, track your progress, and celebrate your milestones. And, of course, always remind yourself why you started in the first place. Keep going and don't give up. Thanks for listening, and as always, don't forget to practice, stay motivated, and enjoy the process. Until next time.